Ravens fans, welcome into the Baltimore Ravens Run. Now, my name is Joey Petersen. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, and we've got some great news to discuss, and it's all about the strength of schedule. Of course, we're a week or two removed from the 2026 schedule release, and where Baltimore sits right now, if you see on that graphic real quickly, which we'll dive into, hey, green means good. Another thing that's good is what we've got going on right here. So happy you're hanging out with us. If this is your first time, I've got a trade proposal for you. You receive free Ravens content all year long, and in return, I receive your free support to keep making that content. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure to make that change. Hit that big red sub button down below, and we'll get started with today's show. It's early May, and that means the NFL schedule release is coming very, very soon. Usually it's in the middle of May, but right now it's kind of weird. The NFL is kind of up in the air on when it's going to happen. Either it's next week or the week after that. The reason being most people are anticipating is because they've got 5 more YouTube streamed games. Those games are up for auction right now, and so whenever those get decided, they can kind of finish out the rest of the schedule. So I think they're waiting on that to get all figured out on that. With this, strength of schedule coming out from Warren Sharp, also projected win totals released by Vegas, and he calculates the strength of schedule based on those exact projected win totals. Baltimore's schedule in 2026 has some fun opponents on it. 8 home games, of course. You got playoff teams coming into town like Jacksonville, Los Angeles. You got some easier games, Tennessee, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, although those teams won't exactly be horrible, but, those are games you feel like you should win from a talent perspective. On the road, it will get a little bit tougher. Multiple different playoff teams like Carolina, Buffalo, Houston. Indianapolis was looking good before, of course, Daniel Jones went down. The Dallas Cowboys, you're playing on the road, and I mean on the road, going all the way to Brazil. So our key question that we're discussing on this program is, why do projected win totals provide more accurate strength of schedule results? Well, Warren Sharp goes into a little bit more detail, and then we'll get into what that means for Baltimore. He said projected win totals incorporate current information about team strength, including offseason acquisitions, injuries, coaching changes. These projections are crafted by sportsbooks aiming to predict future performance, making them more reflective of a team's current capabilities. While no strength of schedule metric is perfect, using Vegas win totals provides a better indication of what teams could look like in the upcoming season than relying on the previous year's wins. We know that certain teams will benefit from luck factors in games next season, such as fumble recoveries, opponent field goal misses, tip passes that result in interceptions, and red zone variance. But with current projected win totals, the pure luck factors that decide games are not incorporated. So the great news that we're discussing on today's show in a little bit more detail is right now, Baltimore sits with the 6th easiest schedule based on forecasted win totals in the entire National Football League, sandwiched right in there between the Jets and between the Eagles. If you look on the opposite side of that graphic, you'll find some pretty unlucky teams like the Arizona Cardinals and Miami Dolphins, who don't have great rosters, but are also playing 2 of the hardest schedules. Arizona, obviously, playing in that NFC West. They've got to play the Rams, Seattle twice a year, and also the Niners twice a year. Yeah, really, really tough sledding for Arizona. And then again, Baltimore, right out there, outside of the top 5, in the top 6. I know that's not the end-all, be-all. I know we shouldn't just write off the season as an undefeated one. It's over. This thing is said and done. But as we sit here in early May, I will take that any day of the week. Okay? I'm not going to be mad about that whatsoever. And one of the reasons I feel like you have a little bit of an easier schedule this year is because you're not playing a first-place schedule. You're playing a second-place one for the first time in a while, right? You won the AFC North back-to-back seasons in 2023 and in 2024. That gave you the first-place schedule. You lost it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you get a little bit of an easier road. 2025 strength of schedule, 13th. This year it is 6th. So last year's was kind of middle of the road. But the reason this means something is when this came out last year in 2025, if you looked at the 8 teams with the toughest schedules, only 2 of them made the playoffs. Those 2 teams are Houston and Los Angeles. That list also included Minnesota and Kansas City, a Super Bowl, competing team from the year before, and a team that won 14 games the year before. It nailed it right on the head. How many games will the Ravens win in 2026? Give me your answer. Real quickly, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks before you reply to that pinned comment. We appreciate them for always being the sponsor of our shows, helping bring you coverage for 100% free. And with playoff basketball here and in full swing on to round 2, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at PrizePicks. And I'll tell you this, the app, it's so easy to use. All you got to do is pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. If you're a hoops guy, perfect. You can go with points, rebounds, assists, blocks, or three-pointers. If you're more of a seam head, you could choose hits, home runs, or strikeouts. I've got for the OKC LA game tonight a 3-pick power play. I took the less on Austin Reeves, 21.5 points, the more on Marcus Smart, 5.5 rebounds and assists, and the more on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 28.5 points. If all 3 of those picks hit, I won $112.40 with our friends over there at PrizePicks. New users, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups. PrizePicks, clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description of today's video. So let's go over those Vegas win totals so you kind of get a sense of what Marcus or Warren Sharp is bringing those all from. Detroit at 10.5, New Orleans at 7.5. Actually don't hate that right there. I do think New Orleans can have a little bit of a step up. Cincinnati under 10. Cleveland barely over 6 at 6.5. Gage, how are we feeling about the New York Jets at 5.5? Gage is taking the over. Baltimore sitting at 11.5. Highest that we've seen so far. One of the highest in the National Football League. Baltimore 10.5. San Fran 10.5. Indy at 8.5. I actually wouldn't feel bad about that one either, given the conference or division, that they play in. Kansas City at 10.5, expected to have a little bit of a bounce back. Denver, on the other hand, expected to take a little bit of a step back. Their win total at 9.5. New England, a little bit of a step back. Their win total at 9.5. They don't get to play that easy schedule anymore, do they, Gage? Tennessee at 6.5. Buffalo 10.5. Jacksonville 9.5. Minnesota middling again at 8.5. Quickly, you will realize, ladies and gentlemen, that the Baltimore Ravens have the highest win total in the entire National Football League. Green Bay at 10.5. Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, 8.5 and 5.5. Atlanta at 7.5. They think it's going to be a good year for the Chargers. I honestly feel like adding in Mike McDaniel is a massive, massive get by Jim Harbaugh. They're at 10.5, as is the defending Super Bowl champions. Tampa Bay is at 8.5. New York, a little bit of step up with John Harbaugh at 7.5. Washington, 7.5. They still think year 3 of Jane Daniels, they're not going to get back up to where they were. And then to round things out, not rounding things out, yeah. Houston, 9.5. Chicago, 9.5. A little bit of a step back for them. LA tied with Baltimore for the most at 11.5. Got to think, even with the hardest schedule, that's crazy right there. And then the Dallas Cowboys at 8.5. Carolina, 6.5. Miami and Arizona. The poor 2 teams right there rounding out at 4.5. So, if you look again at the home opponents for Baltimore and think about it with that schedules, they're taking on Cincinnati, who was at I believe, 9.5. Cleveland was sitting at 6.5. You got a couple of teams in there in Tennessee who's sitting at 6.5 as well. Also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were at 8.5. The New Orleans Saints, they were at 7.5. And so you kind of get to see what the conclusions are being drawn about this year. Ravens away opponents. Of course, you got some good teams in there like Buffalo, who's sitting at 10.5. But, you also got Jacksonville, who's under 10. You got the Indianapolis Colts, who are sitting at 8.5. You got the Houston Texans, who I believe are sitting somewhere near, they're at 9.5. And so what basically they are doing, Warren Sharp is saying, hey, look, they play some good teams. They play a lot of games that they are supposed to win. Okay, they also play in a division where nobody else is expected to win double-digit or more games, which I think you can see. Well, that's great news. With that win total, 11.5, are you typing O for over or U for under? Gage, what are you doing? Gage is saying over. Hell, I'll say the over as well. I believe in Jesse Minter. That's going to do it for today's show. You will see us later today. Okay, we're going to go live, same time as always, around 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. Make sure you subscribe with those notifications on so that, we're going live tomorrow. Sorry. It's been a long day. We're live tomorrow. We're out with another video tomorrow morning. We'll see you then.